A very good morning, currently in Stockholm, Sweden, so a little bit of a different background for today, but let's dive in and see what is going on with euro dollar and the major dollar pairs. So starting off with euro dollar is currently liquidating the low over here of the 4-hour low. As we can obviously see, we had an internal break of structure over here, so the overall structure in towards the downside was obviously bearish for quite some time with the impulse down, pullback, impulse down, pullback, impulse down, and now we saw on Wednesday a break of structure internally over here on that high. Now what we've done is that we've still respected the low over here of the internal structure, so this is the low of your internal structure which broke this high, and we've now liquidated that low, so we could potentially start seeing a further impulse up. So I'll be looking to see how we react to this area of supply. We just missed out on this area of demand, which I would preferably have seen hit, but I'm now going to be waiting to see, okay, can we break through this area of supply over here? If we respect this area of supply, then I do think that we will head down lower, so keep an eye on the 15-minute. If we do break above that area of supply, then I'm confident that we could see a further impulse in towards the highs. So that's the main thing that I'm looking for in euro dollar. Not really looking at the lower time frame as of yet, but also not really trading euro dollar this week, mainly focusing on different pairs due to just the corrective and not very clean nature of price this week. Now moving on in towards the dollar index, because the dollar index has been moving pretty interestingly, pretty similar to euro dollar obviously, but what we've now done is that we've liquidated the low over here. Obviously this is your swing low which broke this high of the 4-hour. This is your swing low, this is your swing high. What price did was liquidate the low, grab liquidity, and then reverse in towards the highs. So as of now, the market has been following the overall order flow in towards the highs, kind of like this lower time frame internal structure. If you go into the 1 hour, you'll see it more clearly with a high, a low, a higher high, higher low, higher high. But what we can see is that pretty much now that we've come in towards the, let's say, the extreme of this overall zone, is that the market has just liquidated this high and is now reversing in towards the downside. So I'm going to be cautious, see if we break this low and how we then react in towards this area of 4-hour demand, because if you go back in towards the 4-hour, you'll then see that that area of demand over here, and let me just flip that zone, is still untouched. We have liquidity resting underneath this low. We never closed above this high over here. So the internal structure is still bullish from this low in towards this high, because for an internal break of structure we need a candle close. So I'm now looking to see how we react in towards this zone. I do or would not be surprised if the dollar index were to push down slightly lower, and then if we reach this zone, that would mean euro dollar would hit that area of supply, and that is then kind of like a decisional zone for where euro dollar will be heading next, in my opinion. So that's the dollar index. Now moving on in towards Aussie dollar, and Aussie dollar over here on the 4-hour is extremely choppy still, guys. It's very choppy. That's why I'm just looking at the 4-hour over here. We're still inside this area of demand. Obviously we've already mitigated it. We've already filled all the orders pretty much, and the longer that you are inside an area of demand, the weaker it gets, in my opinion. So I am keeping an eye out for some further downside, but at the same time we could also just start moving up higher due to the fact that we are still fractally bullish, we are still in demand, and obviously we are inside the overall discount of this 4-hour swing range over here. So from this low in towards this high, or all the way in the bottom of the range. However, if we were really that bullish, why wouldn't the market just start rising in towards the highs, right? That's just a question that you have to ask yourself. For the rest as well, overall the market is just tanking, and then over here we kind of have like a big correction, tanking, and over here a big correction. So I do think that there's going to be a very big impulse in the very near future. It's either going to be up or down obviously, but it's not looking as good as I would have liked to see for further upside, if we would want to see that. Now quickly just going in towards the 15 over here, then obviously as well you'll see it's pretty choppy. However, what's interesting about the 15 is that this over here is your swing low, this over here is your swing high. Price pulled back in towards, let's say, the demand zone over here, and then we reacted in towards the highs. As of now, the overall market is reacting to this area of supply and selling off in towards the downside. We still have some liquidity open below these lows. So what I really need to see is for further upside is this high be gained once again, and then I'll be looking for that further upside. Otherwise, I do expect further downside from Aussie dollar for the rest of today. And sorry a little bit for my messy charts, as I'm not really behind my own desk. I'm not actively trading these dollar pairs. Just a rule for myself, but that's Aussie dollar. So yeah, you guys know what to expect on that pair. Now moving on in towards pound dollar. So pound dollar is obviously also still stuck, right? So we're stuck inside this overall range. I mean, it's very clear if we move in towards the daily, even more clear that we're just stuck inside this range. If we then go in towards the 4-hour, because again, remember guys, the range trading tool did its work once again from this high, rejecting the 75% mark. we push back in towards the downside. Obviously, this is your demand zone. So this initial reaction over here on Wednesday provided some form of reaction, but very important to understand is that there was no liquidation in the overall move up like we had in this move down. Because remember, this was kind of like your supply zone over here, this buy before the sell-off. But because there's no liquidation in that move down and we're not liquidating any high, the high itself becomes liquidity. So you then move up, and then exactly the same thing happens in this move up. There was no kind of like liquidation, nothing. So what happens is that the early buyers who just buy on this sell before the buy candle, they then get liquidated over here, right? So they got liquidated over here. So what I'm now looking at is kind of like this corrective pattern in towards downside that we are seeing. So we are seeing some corrective price action. We're obviously inside an area of 4-hour demand going towards the 1-hour time frame. You can also see that we are now seeing some kind of like descending wedge slash channel, more wedge. So what I'm now looking at is to see, okay, can we today gain this high over here? If we gain that high, then we could potentially start impulsing further in towards the highs. And then hopefully finally see kind of like this area of supply over here at the extreme mitigated and then high probability shorts in towards downside form. Personally, I'm waiting still to get into really high probability shorts. For that, I need this low to break, because obviously this is your high over here. This is your swing low. We've already pulled back in towards like the extreme. So you would want to see further downside. But for that to happen, we really need some more convincing overall order flow. And for now, I'm not really seeing it as of yet. So that's pound dollar for you. Now moving on in towards Kiwi dollar. So Kiwi dollar, guys, and what are we seeing over here? A further impulse in towards downside, in towards this area of 4-hour demand is now occurring. Not really surprised, as we pretty much, again, we didn't have any liquidation in this move up, right? So what happens is that we liquidate our own low over here. So you can clearly see that all these lows try to take out this low over here. Didn't happen, filled. So then it's very like, you can kind of like really expect that this low gets taken. So now go in towards the 15-minute. And you'll see, okay, so this is your obvious swing low. And then you see all these lows trying to take out this low over here. So you know that there's a lot of stop losses below it. And then eventually we liquidate that low. So for today, if you want to look for any potential long trade, because obviously the 15-minute is bullish from this low in towards this high still. If you want to look for any 15-minute long trades, then we just need to start seeing some bullish momentum. I'm not just going to randomly start buying over here. As you can clearly see, the overall market momentum is in towards the downside. We are creating lower lows and lower highs. So let's see if we can gain some highs and then look for a potential long trade. Otherwise, I'll just really stay out once again. So that's the 4-hour over here for Kiwi dollar, waiting to see how we react inside here. Are we going to see any bullish intentions? Then going in towards our last pair, which is gold. So gold, what is happening over here? Obviously still also a little bit stuck, guys. It's a very stuck market. I mean, overall this buy before the sell, that is what suppress price in towards the downside once again. So we're just stuck in towards or in between this supply zone and this demand zone. Preferably I would like to see one more dump on gold in towards this area over here of demand, and then kind of look for that corrective trade in towards the upside once again. So kind of like this descending channel is what we have. So we have lower low, lower low, lower high, and a lower high over here. So if we do see that further pushing towards the downside, that would be preferred. See it pushing towards there, and then, for example, start breaking the highs, which broke this low over here. That is what we would then require for new bullish price action. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Very messy markets on Monday. I'm very confident that there will be a better update to provide you guys with and more opportunities. But yeah, overall, just a good update as well.